Alrighty, welcome back to Talent Take 5. Rob, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure. Absolute
I
pleasure.
have to say, you're single-handedly proven corporate learning can rock, man. Looking like that front
Well,
man of ZZ Top.
I got to get my beard. Got to get. I'm known for it. It's my thing. Let's bring the guy with the beard in. And what's this guy gonna do? He's got a beard. If all else, I can just stare at it.
How long has that beard been going, by the way?
Well, you can't see the bottom of it right now, but it just keeps going. I think to get to the point it's at right now took me 3 years of patience,
Dedication.
and I don't know. Now I just I get it trimmed up every once in a while, try to make it look good, but it's just part of me now. I can't help it.
I love it. Well,
Thank you.
thank you for joining me. I had the pleasure of hearing you first speak at HRLF Ignite and wanted to invite you on because honestly, some pretty spicy takes from your talk and loved your energy. And I think some of the perspectives you have and your approach, I think either you're going to make either a lot of CHROs love it or question everything. So
Yeah.
as we do here on Talent Take 5, 5 hot takes we're going to talk about today.
Sure. Yeah.
Hot take 1, L&D is dead. Long live adaptive immersion.
Mm-hmm.
Hot take 2, and this is something that I haven't seen an overhead projector in I don't know how long until your talk using one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
PowerPoint kills innovation. Hot take number 2. Hot take 3, everyone is a creative leader. Titles are irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one, this spicy, entrepreneurs will outrun entrepreneurs. Hot take.
We'll see.
That's a hot take. I don't know. We'll see.
what the
We'll talk
take
about
is.
it.
Okay.
And hot take 5, your children might be your best co-designers. We'll find out what that's
What?
about.
Okay.
Let's get into it. This is a very controversial statement. Traditional L&D being potentially dead by what was the year that you were saying targeting 2036? We're
Maybe
talking
even
10-year period.
Yeah, maybe even 2030.
Maybe even sooner. So basically, all these corporate training departments are kind of rearranging the chairs on the Titanic.
Yeah, and I mean when I think of L&D being dead, in a lot of ways, I would say now. And what I mean by that is, Andrew, I've been teaching, I've been in learning and development for 30 years. And if I think about how it was done and why it was done and what it looked like in 1995, it should not look the same. And it does. A lot of it looks exactly the same. It's, what content do you want? Let me pull out the packaged training workshop on that content. Let me walk through that content the way that we've always walked through it. Let me share with you these models, and maybe we'll do a role play at the end, and now we'll do some reflection questions, and why don't you fill out an action plan and mail it to yourself, and we'll follow up in 3 months. I mean, it's so much has happened in the last 30 years, even with just technology, that if we're still looking at developing people the same way that we did 30 years ago, we got a problem.
I'm curious what you've been seeing in some of your research with regards to this.
Yeah, I think generally we've got to think about there's a couple things I think about with this, Andrew. One is attention span. And, when I was in grad school at NYU, which was, I don't even remember what year it was, but to give you an idea of what the year was like, I did a little study abroad with some of my peers, and we were all taking pictures, and we're like, how should we share these pictures? And one of my peers said, maybe on Facebook. And some of us went, what's Facebook? So that was me in grad school at NYU, whenever that year was. The research at the time would tell us that attention span was around 7 minutes, meaning if we're not doing something different every 7 minutes, we're going to lose attention. Current research would tell us that our attention span is down to 7 seconds. So thinking about content now and how do I keep people engaged when we're all over the place, we're surrounded by technology. I stop at a stoplight, I pull out my phone, and I get all of the world's knowledge and updates and everything from my friends and within 30 seconds. How do I keep my attention with content? That's what we've got to start thinking about, realizing that our attention spans are low. The old days of let's put somebody in a training class for 8 hours and we're going to have a lunch and come back and do this. Like, I don't know that people have the tolerance for that. And the other part of it is to realize that content is absolutely everywhere. If somebody wanted, if somebody were having needed to have a difficult conversation with one of their peers, um, in 1995, we might go, this is an ongoing trend. We need to hold a class on how to have difficult conversations, which people are still doing today. But the reality is, if I were dealing with this right now, and I've got a one-on-one coming up in 2 hours, and I need to have a difficult conversation, the last thing I'm thinking of is, I wonder if there's a training class that can help me. I'll turn to my technology and go, what should I do? I could even go into AI and say everything that I need to say about this person's interaction or what I know about this person. I could even upload like a recent email chain where we were having an argument, and I could ask AI, like, how do you think I should approach this conversation? And it will probably spit out a pretty good outline of some things that I might want to try or go through. So, these kind of, I'm not even trying to get like super research based. I just say we look around and realize, how do we consume information and access information now? And that's what we're trying to do in learning and development. We're trying to engage people with new content and information that would hopefully change how they're thinking or what they're doing. And our ways of doing that is absolutely everywhere.
If you're a leader responsible for structuring training and learning programs with all of the brokenness that's manifesting with reduced attention span, the prevalence of AI for everything, right? What should be their priorities? Where should they be spending their time, energy, and efforts to maybe think about what should that program look like?
The old question that would be asked on a regular basis is, what content should we deliver? That is the old school, like, what do we need to teach? Let's go find the best content. That's the wrong question to ask. It's still relevant, like, what content is important? Like, maybe my organization is going through extreme growth. So then I think, well, maybe I need to, in terms of content, I've got to get people familiar with change management or, change principles. Or if we're acquiring companies and we're growing and new people are joining the organization, now maybe I need to help people understand networking, or maybe they need to understand how to collaborate better. But the question isn't just what content should we find. The question that I ask myself is, how might I engage learners with that content? And to me, that's the key. I can go find content anywhere. But if I think about engaging people with content, now that is painting a picture of a learning experience that is collaborative, people-focused, relevant to what we're doing. That's how we need to start thinking about it. Just in time, tied to values and vision, practical, so that I'm not sitting there asking at the end of the workshop, how might you apply this learning? But in the learning experience, they are applying the learning to something that's real. So, I think I wrote a manifesto. I can't remember the name of my manifesto, but it's like L&D dies here or whatever. And basically said, if it's just like, what is the content? Wrong question to ask. We have to be considering content. We have to be reconsidering delivery. How do people like to consume content now? We watch content and we might realize, I don't like this show. I'm going to go watch 20 other shows in a split second. We might go, I'm going to start this movie and end it later. Like, that's not what we did in 1995. In 1995, you sat down and watched a show and you sat through the commercials. So how is that delivery happening that is maintaining my engagement and interest so that my attention span doesn't take over? And we also have to think about the learning environment. What is the best learning environment to deliver content? So learning environment, content, how we're delivering, and also what our responsibilities are as a learner. I have to be engaged. I have to stop and go, okay, I'm developing myself, so I need to make time and keep my focus and try to learn some stuff and try to find relevance.
Have you seen any instances where by making some of these changes, we're improving upon sort of corporate attention spans?
I think I look at it in a slightly different way. I think our short attention span and our large capacity to consume large amounts of content has allowed us to become very reactive. We think we can find answers quickly. We think we can find the right answers quickly. We think we can come up with a question and go find a solution and implement it. And so what I've seen is that we become solution focused and very reactive. Believe it or not, what I try to do when I'm looking at L&D is I try to impress upon people the value and the necessity to hit the pause button. Your natural gut might tell you to go do ABC because you've assessed the situation as such. Let's hit the pause button. Did you assess the situation correctly? Why do you think that? So people think speed is best, right? I'm going to be so efficient. I'm going to think about it and then I'm going to go do it. I got to have I don't know why I'm landing on difficult conversation, but I'm mad at Andrew and I need to go tell him, so I'm going to go tell him. Let's hit the pause button. What are you really upset about? Is it Andrew? And if you go talk to him, how are you going to open it? What key points do you want to talk about? When are you going to validate with him whether or not you're right and how he's feeling? So it's trying to consciously lay out almost like prep work or mind work or mindset shifts or the realization that to do anything of value, we have to think through it. And that might mean that we need to change our regular ways of doing things, our gut reaction to things, if that makes any sense.
That's a good pivot point too. Hot take number 2, declaring war on PowerPoint. Get rid of them.
We have to be able to challenge the status quo. If status quo worked and if our normal patterns were fine, there's no need for yearly strategy. There's no need for me to come in with an L&D intervention because everything works fine. And I think more and more now we have to realize that constant change is always going to be there. If we don't challenge our norms, and if we're not open to new ways of doing things, and we're not willing to take risks, and if we're not continually exploring connections, which is the core that you're talking about, we will become complacent. And when we become complacent and go, yeah, I think we're fine, we're out. It's not going to work. So survival is about trying to do things differently and being okay with it. And it used to be in 1995, like change is bad, it's scary, don't do it. People are going to lose engagement and they're going to go look for a place of work that is consistent and they don't need to worry about it. Like, to me, that's the greatest flip in L&D in 30 years is now we need to equip leaders to figure out how do we challenge the status quo. Not only when something is broken, which usually we're pretty good about, the burning bridge, we have to figure it out. Like, I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I'm like, we should always be looking at ways to challenge things. And my attempt to stop using slides was a very proactive approach to saying, well, L&D normally uses slides. And every L&D session I sit through, there's somebody at some point that goes, can I get a copy of this deck? And why are they asking that? They're probably asking it because they're bored and they're trying to find something to say. So hats off to them. They're also telling us everything that I need to know is in those slides. So just send me the slides. I don't need you to walk me through the slide. And I'm getting bored taking notes because I'm just writing down everything that you're showing me, so it's not efficient. So my challenge was, I don't think that's the right setup for learning. So what if I didn't use them? And if you don't use them, now you're forced to answer that question that I posed earlier. How might I engage my audience with content? What do you mean by that? Imagine you can't show a slide. How are you going to teach them about change management or innovation if you're not showing slides that gives a definition of what innovation is and shows our trends over the last 5 years and where we're expected to go and pie chart and graphs? What are you going to do? And then it forces us to do those things. Well, I guess I have to challenge the norms. I guess I have to take some risks. I have to be open to new ways of doing things. And I've got to, find different connections. So I might start that discussion with, let's talk about what y'all think innovation is. Give me an example of a company that you think is innovative and tell me why. Now it's forced back on them and they're having a discussion and they're sharing their perspective and you get to hear where people are at and what they think, as opposed to let's all look at this visual aid, which is a slide, and walk through it. Snoozer.
It is boring.
Boring.
Right? I felt that in your talk at Ignite.
Mm-hmm.
the whole idea of connection with other people in the room to solve a problem, right? With using some of those the riddles that you had was so brilliant, but and so simple. It just seems like we're missing something if we can't figure out that by having the dialogue, by building teamwork into the equation, that we can come out with better
Yeah.
outcomes, not only for solving a broader scope of questions and problems, but also in the process. Like, I built more relationships in that program than I think in any other program I've been in. That was a really interesting takeaway for me. And I'm sure you've seen that with some of your clients where you've implemented some of these things. And I'm sure it's tough when you have an executive that says, well, Rob, I got these 47 slides I got to make. It's like, how do you wrangle some of these really baked in ideas of what works well? Because that's all they've known.
Resistance to change, and I think we have to be able as L&D professionals to change our mindset and realize that those ways don't work. The example that you're talking about is here I've got a task of trying to teach 200 people or so in 60 minutes about collaboration and how to deal with uncertainty. Instead of showing any slides, I think about, well, uncertainty. What is that? When do we feel uncertain? We feel uncertain when we have a puzzle that we have to solve. If you take a jigsaw puzzle, you throw it out on the ground, like there's no one way to do it. So you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, I guess I'll do the outside first and blah, blah, blah. So what's interesting about puzzles is our brains activate when we need to solve an unknown problem. So if I have a puzzle to solve, my brain I'm not trying to nerd out on like, learning theory, but it's true. So that activates my brain. Oh man, so you're going to take 200 people and have them collectively solve a 25 sentence word puzzle. Yeah. And the other thing you hit on was the socialization of it. We are social learners. That's how we learn as like human beings. We enjoy hearing other people's perspectives, and we enjoy giving our perspectives about what we know and sharing our knowledge. If you never give me that opportunity, how many conferences have we all been to where we sit there and we're like, this is going to be the most interactive conference in the world. For 3 days, we got the greatest people on the stage. Here they are. And we're literally sitting by someone for the entire day. We may never say anything to them, except for like, do we get free water? Where'd you get that bag?
Where's that infused water station?
Was I supposed to bring my own water bottle? Are you going to the next session? That there is no meaningful interaction in putting all of those people into one place and saying, we're going to learn stuff. That when we have those opportunities, everybody should be doing stuff together all of the time. We're sharing knowledge. We're challenging each other. We're getting into debates, maybe even arguments. Like there's conflict, there's skill building, there's community events where I get to learn about the other people as we're learning about this content that I could frankly go and search on my own and figure out. But you're creating an environment. So there's absolutely a social aspect to it that we don't pay attention to and we forget about. And don't think being social is going, does anybody have any, we're going to now do Q&A. Does anybody have a queue? And then one person, like there's 200 people. One guy, he asked a question. Now he's going to take 15 minutes and everybody else going, I didn't have that question. So you think about solving puzzles, you think about networking and learning in social groups, creating meaningful experiences where people's personalities can come out. That's when we learn.
Yeah, and I think you learn too when you're out of your comfort zone. I'm a musician, and I think about when I've gotten better playing music, it was when it was something that was hard and outside of my comfort zone, and I just dove into it and like broke it down. But I think people avoid some of this work because the unknown is scary, and sometimes
Absolutely.
scarier than at the end. It's, you train your fingers enough times, you can figure it out, right? Like playing an instrument. But I think, what is it about social connection I don't know if this is getting worse. I don't know if there is a similar line if you were to look at attention span with sort of like the anxiety.
Yeah.
There's one guy in my office, Rob, and every day I walk out when I pass him, he pulls out the phone like I'm ready to say hello and be friendly.
Yeah.
So it's like this fear of diving into the unknown with strangers. and people around us that we see. I see that guy all the time at work,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's like, head down. I'm like, dude, I'll say hi to you. I'm over here, you know?
Yeah. And I think you also can look at it from different generations and how they might be comfortable or express discomfort with social environments. And that's why I taught at Fordham University in the Bronx. I wasn't out there to try to make the money. I'm out there trying to identify and experience how do 20 somethings learn and interact with content. And that's another challenge that we have as L&D professionals. Like my job is to put together a learning experience where I can try to get people to feel the most comfortable and provide content that is most relevant to them, and basically a climate and a culture where they can interact with each other in meaningful ways. Not just Q&A, not do a role play with your buddy. Like that stuff is old. Like that is old. Nobody wants to do that. People fear that. Oh my God, I got to go to a training and I got to talk to somebody. That means we're going to have to do a role play. And I'm probably going to be put in front of the room like, now you act like you're the customer and I'm going to be the salesperson. And, like, bleh, that is so uncomfortable. But if we think about creating a space for you and your buddy who he's not, I guess he's not your buddy because he just walks out and grabs his phone.
He could be
But
my
if you
buddy.
went, he could be. But if you went to a workshop and you're on a small team with them and your team's 6 out of 8, I talked about the conferences. I've been to 2,000 people conferences and there have been days I didn't talk to one other soul because it never, or I just talk about like, is this where we get lunch?
I find those places too pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
In the conference process.
Look at me.
So it's a good pivot point for us in thinking through the hot take number 3, right? You're saying that everyone has the potential to be a creative leader, regardless of job title. How should we approach creativity and innovation, building off of, okay, we got to get uncomfortable first, but where does the innovation actually happen?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and there's two things that pop into my head. Number one, I do view every employee and every person as a leader. It's just what I view. Like if you're working for an organization or you're trying to do something, you are part of leading that group to do something. You're part of leading that organization to do something. It's like as a parent, I'm always a parent, and leadership and parenting kind of go side and side. So I'm not reporting into somebody, and somebody isn't necessarily having a direct line to me versus a dash line, but we're leading something. We're not just putting widgets together. And even if we are putting widgets together, we're doing it to try to produce the most widgets and blah blah blah. I do view everybody as a leader. And when I do leadership topics, it's not just, do you mean people managers or people that have 10 or more people reporting to them? It's like, I would hope that people have enough aspiration to either they are a people leader or they hope to be one day, and with more responsibility often comes more headcount and responsibility of more people. So that's take one. Take two, this idea of creativity freaks people out. I'm not creative, and research would tell us that adults do not believe they're creative. Research would tell us that many adults and leaders think that there's not even a place for creativity in the workforce unless you're in a creative field.
Unless you're in marketing, or
you're in marketing,
digital.
or you're in the arts, or but that word creativity is a scary word, and innovation is a scary word too. I taught the course I wrote and taught at Fordham University was called Innovation and Resilience, and I would walk in on day one and I'm like, we're not going to say the word innovation anymore. It's too buzzwordy. And I don't know what people think of when they think of innovation. Whatever your listeners are thinking of right now, that's what they think. Some people think science. Some people think like technology. To me, innovation is even as simple as during the pandemic, Target would bring stuff out to your car. Killer, man, solved a problem. So It's about change. That's it. And now if I'm thinking of myself as a leader and I'm trying to help the organization change, the question that poses, if I'm setting this up correctly, so everyone's following, I got to lead the change of this organization. The question that pops up is, what might we do? Not should we do, not what do we have to do, but what might we do? And I use that word very specifically because it ignites creative thinking in our brains. I'm the one that said, if you ask me what might we do, I actually get to try to answer that and give you a lot of suggestions. Yeah. And you better throw out some creative ones. I'm dealing with very established organizations that I dealt with a company last week that's been around for 165 years. And I'm working with them doing possibilities workshops and innovation work. And and I got one of the small groups to consider opening a fourth business unit and transforming this organization into something that it is not today by
Amazing.
allowing for creative thinking to happen. Well, we've
Fantastic.
always been an insurance company. Okay, but based on all the resources that you have, relationships, trust, financial security, what else might you do? Well, we could open a bank. Cool. Why don't you look at a banking arm of your organization? That took creativity, and it took somebody realizing like my voice matters, i.e. leadership, and I'm going to help the company think about the future.
That's fantastic. I was reading a little bit. You have this framework that I wanted to talk about, the point framework. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a tool I use.
So purpose, options, insights, next step, and test. Sounds like this is designed for folks that like don't know what they're doing anymore. I don't know if there's a fair assessment, but talk to me a little bit about that framework.
Yeah, so point, I think you got a couple of those right.
Did I get some wrong? It wouldn't. It
Yeah, I
wouldn't
got some
be.
wrong.
Wouldn't be attending one of your talks without me getting something wrong here. Be it, at least it's on a math problem, so that's
No, and this is the thing, and maybe after I explain it, it'll be easy to have it more memorable. If everything that I've said so far is true, that we're constantly thinking about change and we need to come up with new possibilities in order to do it, then that poses the question to all of us, what might we do? Which ignites creative thinking, which means I get to come up with a crazy idea. So now I've got this crazy idea. I'm going to take my insurance company and let's open up a banking arm. Well, sounds crazy, man. Normally what we do is we go to our leader and say, hey, I have this idea. Let me tell it to you. Let's get into banking. And guess what the leader's going to say? The hell are you talking about? We're an insurance company. We've tried that before. There's no way. Like they're going to shoot it down all the time. So point is a framework or a tool that helps us have that conversation when somebody says, I actually have a great idea and I want to share it with you. And it can be used both ways, but to think about it from a leadership perspective, when somebody comes to me, and here, this is the point I'm trying to make, Andrew, the point. When you've got somebody that has an interesting idea and somebody that might need to listen to it, the critical point is when that dialogue happens. And it's so important that you could look at it as the most important point of innovation. If I respond the wrong way, that's stupid, man. It doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing. Not only are you going to walk away defeated, but you're going to walk away and go, I guess I'm never going to offer an idea again. And I guess my boss doesn't think I'm very smart. And maybe I'm not that very smart. And maybe I'm crazy to come up with stuff. I guess I should just stick with the status quo and ride this complacency train until we're out of business. Or at that point, you could ignite engagement and excitement and innovation and creativity. So point is a framework to how to respond. The first is when somebody comes to you with an idea, you say, what are the positives? That's the P. Let me tell you what I like about it. And it's not the sugarcoating like, I like that you were creative and I like that you had the courage to come and talk to. Positives in this case would be, you know what? We do have all the resources and relationships that a bank would need. And we've got such a committed, consumer base that trusts us so much so that they're buying life insurance from us, that to ask them to give us money to hold for them wouldn't be that big of a stretch. So this is what I like about it. The O in point stands for opportunities, and opportunities is for you to consider, well, what if it were successful? What would success bring? What if we opened up a banking arm and all of a sudden everybody went, of course I'll give them, I don't like banks. Banks charge me fees. Wells Fargo does this. You guys wouldn't do that? I trust you. Here's all my money. I'm already paying you money every month anyway for insurance, so boom. So we think about, well, what if it were successful? What would success bring? And you think, what other opportunities does that initial idea plant to you? So maybe you're like, well, I don't like the idea of trying to be a bank, but what if we offered a savings account that went along with a life insurance plan? We're not a full-blown bank. You're doing that because you're trying to put your head into this mindset of change is good and I'm going to build some momentum. The I is the most important piece, which is issues. And issues comes with a question mark, where that's where you get to talk about your issues. And you do it in the form of a question. So maybe my biggest issue is, how might we ensure that we could comply with all of the legal regulations and, government, rules about banking? I don't know if we're set up to do that. So how might we ensure that we're it's even possible for us to open up a
Right.
banking arm. It's a question, and when we ask a question, the brain goes, "Oh, a puzzle to solve." NT and point is new thinking. So let me give you some new ideas that address the issue that you just raised. Well, maybe we could look into it. Maybe we could look at organizations that weren't traditionally banks, but now they're offering banking service. Doesn't Apple kind of allow me to have a bank account on my phone? I think they're not traditionally a bank. Maybe we could look into that. So it's a framework to help us have an impactful and effective dialogue when we're hearing new ideas and also presenting new ideas. I shouldn't just go and say, "I have an idea. Let's make a bank. What do you think?" I could present it in that same format. I want to tell you about why I think we should open a bank. Here are the positives. Here are the opportunities. The issues that you might be thinking of are this, but here's what I've thought about to address them. What are your thoughts? Changes. It gives new ideas a fair hearing. I
I
bet
think
you
it's a
won't forget it
wonderful
now, Andrew.
framework. I have PTSD thinking about the acronyms that I got all wrong. Thank God I had teammates at the Ignite conference
I
to
know.
solve that puzzle,
No, can you
because I would have
imagine?
failed big time on this
No, we
one.
brag about I know all the acronyms and you don't. Like that's another thing that we shouldn't try to intimidate people with that.
That's why you made up
Anyway,
one. You
that's
had a plant in there. What was the one? What was it called?
you're
There
right.
was one in there that was like, that's not a thing. Rob made that up.
HNL, whole nother level. I don't know. Like I make up a
It
lot of
was like
stuff.
the
I
cash
improv.
register one at TJ Maxx or something like that.
I don't.
Uh,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, it
I
was
think I
like a
remember.
bunch of registers at Kohl's or something like that. That I was like,
Yeah, I
who
mean,
is
look,
gonna? You had to get.
part of delivery is improv, and believe it or not, this might shock people. Humor is very impactful when you're delivering and trying to have a conversation with somebody and teach them something new. There is research around how humor can help with retention. And that freaks people out too. Like, wait, so I'm gotta be funny? I'm not funny. No, I'm not creative and I'm not funny. What am I gonna do? Well, I would suggest you find ways to inject humor and have some creative thoughts around whatever you're doing.
And a sidebar on that. I know you've tried your hand at some stand up and done some of that before. Are you still doing that work?
Well, I haven't really. My bio makes it appear that way. But what I will tell you is that I've always been fascinated with comedy. And what I'm fascinated by is you are put in this environment, and specifically, I'm talking stand up. You're sitting in a room and you're going, make me laugh. And you're sitting in tension. And the comic is thinking they paid to come in here and they're judging me if I'm funny or not. And it's a very real, like, physical space where a relationship is built and tested. And what I love the most about it is people are engaged. People sit there and go, say something. I'm going to listen to what he says. Is that funny or not? Funny. I like this guy. Do you like this guy? What's next? Give me another. So it keeps people like on the edge of their seat for a very short time frame. Standard, if someone's doing open mic or has a comedy, they might have 7 minutes or 5 minutes, and you're trying to take people on a journey and end big. So there's some very cool factors in it that relate to teaching and learning and engagement that I find completely show up in L&D. We remember punchlines because they're unexpected. So can I create a learning environment that has unexpected moments in it that people remember these things? The thing that you just called out, Andrew, I forgot about it. It was one of the words that I put in the word puzzle, one of the puzzles. I totally forgot what the solution is. And instead of changing it, I made it a joke and told people, like, I have no idea what the answer is, so we got to make it up ourselves. And I came up with something stupid. So we think like the organization is buttoned up and I'm strategic and I'm delivering and here are my points and here are the slides and let's get through this. There's nothing funny about that. There's nothing improv about that. The most improv thing that people might do, as I said earlier, is let's go into a Q&A. I have no idea what they're going to ask. And normally, but then I've seen people like plant questions, ask this, and then I'll answer it. Like that's not fun. That's boring. So my stand-up was I was presenting at a conference and Seth Meyers was going to speak at the conference. And it was an IT conference. And Seth's people called the conference and they're like, what's going on right before Seth comes on stage? And the IT people were like, we're talking about data security for the US government or something like. Comedians likes to come on at 9 or 10 p.m. at night when people were drunk. That's a warm environment. This was going to be 11 a.m. in the morning at the Javits Center in Manhattan. So Seth's people were like, no. Somebody's got to warm up. He's not coming on. He's not going to follow data security in the U.S. government. And the organizers are like, cool, who's he bringing? They're like, we're not bringing anybody. You guys need to find somebody. So they reached out to me. They're like, you want to do 7 minutes before Seth essentially opened for him? Yeah, I'll do it. Shit my pants, man. I was walking around Manhattan for like 48 hours. Like, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? But it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. It was fun.
Now, did you have a whole bit going into that? Or did you didn't improv that?
I think I had a day or a day and a half to 7 minutes. And I'm a prep junkie. Even if my stuff, if you watch me and you're like, it looks like he's just making it up. I know what I'm doing. And that's the other thing about comedians. They know when they're hitting things, and the timing is important and the word choice is important. And so I ran through for probably, I don't think I slept. And I came up with a good 5 to 7 minutes.
And that feels like a lifetime on stage.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully you killed. How'd you do?
It was great. It was great. You know, Seth was at the back saying thanks, and I watched his set, and to be honest with you, it's jokes that I'd already heard from him. So I'm like, hey man, have a little fresh material. But I don't mind being on stage. That again is the role of an educator in L&D. If you got people training classes that are not comfortable being in front of people and potentially taking on the role of entertaining people to keep them engaged, if they're so caught up on their content, like, wait, let me turn to my slide and I can't find my notes, and sorry guys, you know, like, it's not going to work. We watch stuff, all the stuff we watch is at some level entertaining to us. Flipping through my phone. This is funny. I've watched it a million times. I'm going to watch it again. You know, that's how we quickly, assess and judge content. Same thing with training delivery. This guy comes on within a minute. I'm like, do I like this guy or not? Is he entertaining or not? Ooh, I don't know what he's doing. Why doesn't he have slides? Why does he have an overhead projector? Why did he just make a joke about a beard? Why is he doing all this stuff? And that's how that's how we are used to consuming content. So we need to think about training that way.
Just real quick, Rob, I think the beard needs a little quick comb, to be honest.
Fair enough. Got my heat generated. It's like an ironing board. I think somebody in the mall was like, hey, do you need this? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take it.
No, it looks fire, man.
I get it trimmed up. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So hot take number 4, this is the one that was giving us a little bit of pause. Will corporate entrepreneurship outrun startup entrepreneurship? Let me give you a little lead in here. Avery Dennison cut their prototype cycles from 6 months to 8 weeks, apparently, with some of the stuff that you were talking about. What secret advantages do inside innovators have that the startup world is missing, right? You're talking about a bigger company that was able to drastically cut down this stuff. And I think defies typical wisdom.
Well, now I'm making sense of it. Maybe the hesitation I have with this hot take is how people think about internal employees should have an entrepreneurial mindset.
I hear that a lot.
And, you know, the work I did at Fordham, I was teaching in part of an entrepreneurial program. So I was like part of a path for kids that wanted to become entrepreneurs, or adults that want to become entrepreneurs. And I'm an entrepreneur myself. So when I think of an entrepreneur, it's like, you don't care about roles. You don't care about anything but trying to find success. And when you find success as an entrepreneur, I'm not trying to sound weird about this, it's all yours. Like, if I'm a company of one, the harder I work, all of the earnings come to me. And if I'm an employee of one, I could work hard. And if I mess up, it's all on me and I get nothing. So to think of employees who are getting a regular salary and say, I don't want you to think like an entrepreneur, the construct isn't there for me to have them do it. Because if they're an entrepreneur, that means if they come up with an idea that would change the trajectory of the company or allow the company to make $7 million more, if they were really an entrepreneur, they would have a stake in that $7 million. They wouldn't just get an award that went, thank you for sharing your best idea. So I went off on a tangent there. But here's what I'm saying about, I think to answer your question about large organizations and their ability to innovate quickly, they have usually a ton of resources.
Yes.
Like if I'm Avery Dennison and I'm saying we got something that takes 6 months, and I could challenge my team to go, what if all of a sudden we're asked to do it in 8 weeks, or our competitors are doing it in 7 weeks? Are you up for the challenge? I can ignite knowledgeable, passionate people, and they might even have a fear of like, oh my God, if we don't change this, our competitor's going to win and we're going to lose business, and so we got to do it. You've got an army and potentially resources to throw at it to go, let's do it. The organization can assume how much risk do we need, and if it doesn't work out, this level's fine, and if it does, at least we're successful, or we learn something from it. Where an entrepreneur may be trying to insert themselves into a new market or create a new market, which you're not really sure if people are going to adapt to it or not. So if I can turn my workforce, I'm changing the word entrepreneurs into a pool of resources that are willing to think creatively to solve the problems of my organization today and tomorrow. That's a good thing. That's what I'm going to try to. Does that answer hot take 4?
Yeah, the $1 million questions. How do you give people freedom to break things, right, without actually breaking the business? It's like go into that room where it's like one of those destroy everything rooms without raising the foundation of the building.
Yeah, you engage in the right dialogue at the right time. You explain the why. You explain the ask. You have good discussion around the ask. You talk to them about what success would look like and what failure would look like. You have conversations about, if this doesn't work out, it's okay, as long as we learn something. You talk about failure all the time. You highlight people that have taken risks and that didn't work out, and you talk about the value of it and the learning that you got from it. I worked for American Express in the US. I worked for the division of American Express that created the American Express gift card, which was a very successful thing. Like, I could go into the grocery store right now and buy a gift card. Like, what? I
Get
thought
one.
you were a bank and now you're selling something at a grocery store? Yeah. And we thought this is a great alternative for people that don't want to give cash. So we looked at what cultures give cash a lot, and we're like, Japan does. So let's go launch a gift card in Japan. So we spent all this money, like, oh, it's going to make sense. They give cash. They'll just introduce this gift card, and they're going to buy gift cards and give it to each other. It's more secure than cash. It can be refunded if lost or stolen, and it's awesome. Failed. And it failed because we didn't understand enough about the culture of giving in Japan. And then, just to give you a quick insight, Andrew, if I gave you something and you didn't know how to use it, and we're over here in a Western society, you'd call me and go, Rob, what the hell is this thing, man? How do I use this? I'm like, oh, it's a Wi-Fi extender, dude. You plug it in and this is how to do it. And hopefully you can figure it out. And you're like, okay, thanks. But in Japanese culture, I'm probably making a broad generalization. I'm not trying to be insensitive, but if I give you something and you don't know how to use it, you lose face and I lose face. And it's too risky. And if I give you something that you've never seen or used before, and you take it into a store and you try to use it, and the store's like, I've never seen this before. What is this thing? Now, again, they lose face, you lose face, the person that gave it to you loses face. So it's like, whoa, we're going to stick with cash. You didn't do enough research around gift giving. You did your research around cash transactions and cash moving hands. You didn't do enough around gift giving. So I thought I was going to lose my job, Andrew, but we were awarded a chairman's award where I got to go to France for 2 weeks. And I'm not saying you have to give everybody a trip to France for making mistakes, but we made a massive mistake. We learned from it. We shared the learning with the organization, which allowed the organization to become better. Got to make that okay.
Tell me, like, that they weren't placed on like a watch list after using this thing, right? Like, Rob, all my assets have been frozen. I tried to use this card you gave me. There's risk, though. You're totally right. It's an interesting example. Just being sensitive of time here, Rob. Hot take number 5, and honestly, this was like
I got about
my
5.
favorite.
Yeah,
My favorite one. So you made your daughter your chief creative officer.
I think so. Yeah.
Make your children your co-designers. Hot take number 5.
I've got a bunch of kids. Okay. We got 5 kids. ranging from age 20 and a half to 6. And what I love about it is it allows me to understand different generations. It allows me to identify that kids at different ages have different learning capacities and understanding of the world. Also, one of my sons is nonverbal autistic, so he has a very unique approach to learning and communicating that's very different. We often think that the older you are, this is an old school mentality. The older you are and the more experience you have, the more knowledge you have, and the wiser you are. And I don't necessarily subscribe to that at all. Our younger generation might be faster, more creative, more connected than we are as an older generation. Their handle on what they might be able to do with technology is far. My 13-year-old knows more about technology than I do, and I'm not saying I don't know technology. I always grew up knowing like I know technology, but it happens so fast, and his generation find ways to communicate and connect and collaborate with technology that I never even would have thought of. My daughter, who's 20, killing it at NYU, studying psychology, like her generation is going to become the next level of leaders for my clients. So these people that are 25 coming in the door as new hires, if I don't connect with them and they're like, this guy's old, this guy's doing dad jokes and he doesn't know, I got tons of ideas and he's not even asking me for my input. What a missed opportunity. So we need to think again about who's got answers and input and perspectives that are valuable to me, and how do I connect? It's not about, well, my title's this, so I'm only going to talk to people with my title. It's not even, well, this is our organization, so we're only going to talk to people within our organization. We should be looking everywhere and do not discount what the youth has in terms of knowledge and experience. And guess what? They do judge. So when they come into the organization, they're going to be like, why are you guys doing A, B, C, and D, man? This is lame. You should change it. And I have 20 ideas, what I could tell you to change it, if you ask me.
They don't ask for your slide deck either. Do you think that companies should be elevating their Gen Z talent? Should they be elevated into some more advisory positions?
Yes, that I can possibly give you, Andrew. And I'll tell you that my favorite client right now, which is a major cellular carrier, I work on a project with them, which is called shadowboarding. You are taking brand new employees and you're putting them into an advisory role with the C-suite. And you're challenging them to go, can you guys come up with some new ideas on what we might do with X, Y, and Z? Go and come up with as creative stuff as you want. Come back to us 3 months down the road. After you do a workshop with Rob and after he coaches you on their presentation, then let's have a conversation with the C-suite. And these are very junior individuals within the organization. They just graduated from college. They've been in there a year or two. We see some potential in them. There is no lack of possibilities they can come up with, and they're not afraid to go talk to the C-suite. They're like, cool, I'll email the CEO right now. And like, oh, whoa, just relax. Like, let's just wait a bit and let me coach you through that. But this idea of reverse mentoring, that's the generation of tomorrow. Like, those are the customers that we're all going to need to be servicing. Like, and they have different needs and thoughts and desires and expectations than I have as a 48-year-old guy. So why wouldn't I include them? Why on earth would I bring him in and go, let me tell you how you're supposed to think. You're supposed to think like me, and this is exactly what you're supposed to do. Like, that's where they're going to get disengaged and they're out of there.
It's a really good point. And in my work in staffing and recruiting, I'm placing talent across industries, and we see massive generational clashes. And there's a big meme theme right now with like, how does Gen X respond to like when they put in a PTO request and millennials? Yeah. But I mean, it really underscores how do we adapt when you have a multi-generational workforce that all thinks that their way was right. And then there's also this sort of like, one generation might have learned literally on a typewriter, right? Putting together correspondence and memos. And then you have another generation that thinks that email is like an archaic form of technology.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's like, what should the adaptation strategy and wisdom and advice be?
Collaborative problem-solving learning experiences. Let's bring them together and say, and it's similar to the exercise that you went through with me, Andrew, like everybody needed to play and offer perspectives in order for everybody to win. And imagine if we looked at our organizations like that. My role in L&D is trying to get as many people as I can to play these games about learning and growing our company with as many people as they can. And I'm trying to build relationships so they do have common ground. We get that right, sky's the limit.
I felt very alone and dumb when I was sitting at my table by myself trying to solve those puzzles.
Impossible.
But then I knew, there's people I knew. The more answers that I got, all of a sudden I felt so empowered and confident of like, I'm going to help these other people because I have information that they're going to benefit from.
Absolutely. And we all want to share our knowledge. If I look at somebody and go, you don't have any knowledge to share, shame on me. They do. My 6-year-old has as much information to share about what she thinks our family should do in the summer, just as much as I do as a parent. I want to hear all their perspectives. Same thing with running a company.
I love it. Well, my son is 2, so we'll start him as a VP. I don't know if he's ready for a C-level job just yet, Rob, but
C-1, yeah.
It must have been a very interesting bring your kid to work day. It's like, no, she's at work right now. Like she's working. I
love my kids. I respect them. And in their early days, my daughter went through Montessori education all through elementary. And there's a Montessori quote that says, respect the child. And essentially it's saying you should respect your children more than anybody else because you're trying to teach them respect. And it's not like, you better respect me, I'm your dad. Like I need to respect you as a child who's on a journey and I'm trying to help you. And that applies to me in corporate America as well. We should respect the employees wherever they're at. And it's only going to help the organization.
It's fantastic. Well, Rob, where can people find your stuff and follow up with you if they're interested in some of your programs, which are fantastic?
Thank you.
Where can we find out more info and stay connected?
My website's a good place to start, robcordova.com. My LinkedIn, I'm pretty active in, so you can find me on LinkedIn as Rob Cordova. I do a virtual training festival where I offer 1-hour classes, which kind of highlight the things that I've talked about today. That can be found at virtualtrainingfestival.com or check this one out, noslidesallowed.com.
Perfect. Glad that URL domain was available for you.
I think I also bought Learnapalooza, but I'm not sure on that one, so don't go do that one. Thanks, Andrew. It's been an absolute pleasure, man. Thanks for
Rob,
for having
my
me.
pleasure. Thank you so much. And until next time, take 5. We'll see you next time.
Take care. See you, bud.
I'm the one you should be giving your attention to.